The United States makes the UN work when it wants it to work. And that is exactly the way it should be, because the only question to the United States is what's in our national interest.
My name is John, and the International Criminal Court is now in session. Today, we are going to watch a video made by one of my favorite YouTube channels ever, and that is Reporting from Ukraine. He is a transparent and honest guy who totally reports nothing but the facts on the ground in Ukraine. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. I don't like this guy, and I hope he gets banned from YouTube one day. Why? This dude has to be one of the most shameless liars I have ever came across on this platform. Like, it's not even funny. Reporting from Ukraine, somehow, someway, has 611,000 subscribers. No joke. And the algorithm is, like, literally pushing him like crazy. Like, do you see, like, how many views he's already getting in the past couple of hours by reporting this Delulu bullshit? Like, it's crazy. And it literally does not make any sense to me at all. Are people literally willing to live in this bubble that Ukraine is somehow winning? Really? But anyway, let's watch the video and try to figure out what he got wrong here. Hold on a second. I need to fix this.
Today there are a lot of interesting updates from the Pokrovsk direction.
Okay.
Here, Ukrainians have decimated Russian logistics through drone strikes and precise artillery fire.
Okay, so this is kind of the truth here. The Russians have been struggling in the Pokrovsk direction in the past couple of weeks. That's obviously not a lie. I mean, Ukrainians attempted a counteroffensive there, as all of you know by now, just by watching one of my recent videos.
Creating numerous roads of death in the Russian rear. With freezing temperatures dropping below 18 degrees Celsius and being issued donkeys instead of trucks for transport, many Russian soldiers simply opted to wave the white flag to surrender instead of continuing the fight.
Okay, first of all, where did this whole donkey claim come from? Is this something that is actually real based on credible evidence provided from the front? Or is this just some psyop by the SBU to convince people somehow that the Russians are losing this war? Because from what I understand, I haven't seen really anything to prove that there are donkeys on the front used by the Russians. I mean, if they're going to use anything that isn't like cars, bikes, or anything like that, why don't they use horses? I don't know why donkeys is the first thing that has come to their mind.
The goal of the Ukrainian forces in this area is to undermine the Russian offensive effort around Pokrovsk. To achieve this, the Ukrainians are constantly striking Russian logistics to prevent the arrival of heavy equipment, soldiers and supplies to the front line. This creates severe issues for the Russian forces on the front line, including a lack of manpower and armored support.
Okay, I just want to say before we move on, like any further with the video, this guy sounds like he's AI generated. Like, his voice doesn't sound natural. Like, there's no emotion being put into it. Unless it's the typical, like, Slavic, like, emotionless, like, I don't know, way of talking. I'm not convinced that this dude is a real person. I'm just not.
Which allows the Ukrainians to conduct rapid and successful counterattacks that further disrupt the Russian offensive. The main contributor to high Russian manpower losses is the effectiveness of Ukrainian drone surveillance and
no shit.
the precision of kamikaze drone units. Both Russian and Ukrainian soldiers report that Ukrainian drones swarm the front line, making any movement in the open basically impossible and akin to suicide. Geolocated footage from Novovasilivka underscores this sentiment, showing the sheer quantity of Ukrainian drones in the sky simultaneously. One drone conducts the strike, while another is an observation drone equipped with a droppable grenade, looking for targets with a thermal camera.
Okay, my question is, when was this video posted? Onto, like, Telegram or something? That's my question.
The other FPV drone is on standby, ready to strike any other target that might present itself. Such effective methods of surveillance and precision strikes led to some individual Ukrainian drone operators eliminating over a company of Russian soldiers, between 150 and 200 men, around Pokrovsk alone.
Where's your proof that Ukraine did in fact martyr around that many Russian soldiers?
Meanwhile, Russian forces lack a sufficient number of experienced drone operators to keep up with Ukrainians, leading to overwhelming Ukrainian drone superiority in this direction. Ukrainians have not only targeted the Russian front line, but also disrupted logistics deep behind enemy lines with precision strikes from drones and artillery. Footage from Russian soldiers shows Russian logistics roads transformed into roads of death, filled with destroyed armored vehicles, trucks, and cars.
What?
This destruction has forced Russian troops to resort to civilian vehicles, motorbikes, or even walking to the front.
I mean, there's not really many options right there for the Russians in the Pokrovsk direction as of this moment. Until they, like, control Udachne, they're not going to be able to really cement their control over these territories.
The lack of proper transport and continuous strikes have slowed logistics, leaving Russian soldiers at Pokrovsk complaining of shortages in food, water, fuel, and equipment, often scavenging this from fallen comrades.
Where is your proof of this? I mean, I've seen some of this on Telegram, but you need to, like, cite these sources yourself, like the exact sources, so that people can go check them out and to see if they're credible or not. But the fact that you're just saying this and expecting people to basically take everything you're saying as facts from, like, the very start, you're just making yourself look like a complete disinformation federal agent.
With temperatures plunging to minus 18 degrees, many of them also report suffering from frostbite during long marches and time spent idle in the trenches. In a desperate effort to remedy their collapsing logistics at Pokrovsk, the Russian Ministry of Defense issued donkeys, horses, and mules to soldiers in the Pokrovsk direction.
Okay, again, with the donkey thing. You first all said that the Russians had no more missiles left. Then you said that the Russians were fighting with only shovels. Then you said the Russians were deploying North Koreans to Kursk. And now the donkeys. What is your next excuse for losing this war?
To be used for transport and supply animals. Quite obviously, this provides no real relief to Russian soldiers stuck on the front line, with animals not being able to compensate for the lack of a strong motorized logistics network. To many Russian soldiers on the front line, the use of donkeys, horses, and mules was the final straw, exposing the desperate state of their own military. Ukrainians were well aware of this and strapped loudspeakers to their drones, broadcasting messages to Russian soldiers, offering them to surrender.
What?
Russian soldiers
Where's your
decided that
proof of this?
surrendering would be the
Okay, you gave us, like, a picture, but when was this posted? And what is your exact source for this so-called surrendering of the Russian troops?
only way they could be adequately fed and treated for their illnesses, leading large numbers of Russian soldiers to give up the fight, as one group of 9 soldiers left their trenches waving the white flag. Overall, the Ukrainians managed to deplete and strain Russian logistics, stretching the Russian offensive to the point of culmination, and leading to the Russian Ministry of Defense officially issuing donkeys and horses for
Again, you're saying all this crap, yet, like, it doesn't really have any merit to it.
logistics and transport purposes. Poor logistics reduce the flow of Russian soldiers to the front line and slows their response time. Underfed, under-equipped, and under constant counterattacks, Russian soldiers' morale has now dropped to an all-time low.
That's not what the maps say, but okay.
With surrenders becoming more frequent by the day.
Where?
Such circumstances enabled Ukrainians to push back, retake the initiative, and regain ground.
What the
An effort
fuck?
which will continue as the collapse of the Russian logistics can lead to a complete collapse of Russian lines west of Pokrovsk.
Oh my god.
If you are against the invasion of Ukraine and you want to support the war,
Okay, so this guy is now just grifting. But anyway, let's talk about the actual facts on the ground, okay? Let's go to this map here. So this is the Pokrovsk direction. Yeah, obviously there are some logistical problems here, but the reality of the situation is the Russians still very much control their destiny in the Pokrovsk direction. The Ukrainians did attempt a counterattack in Kotline, Pischane, Lysivka, and as far as I know, the Russians appear to have regained the initiative in these areas. So, like, after the Ukrainians appear to have retaken, like, half of Kotline, the Russians managed to reverse those Ukrainian gains, along with what happened in Pischine. And then, just recently, Creamy Caprice came out with a geolocation, and the Russians apparently advanced in the village of Lysivka. And obviously, you're not going to report the advances that are going on in Kursk and the areas near the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast border. So, reporting from Ukraine, if you're watching this video, and I really doubt you are, because you're a liar, you're a snake, you are a grifter, I want you to be banned from YouTube for your constant, literal, like, spread of disinformation. I know you get paid a lot for this. I get it. But stop lying to your audience, please. And if you keep lying, I'm just going to keep making more videos like this. And if more people watch my videos, me easily debunking and roasting you, they're going to start to do the same to you in your own comment section. So take my warning very seriously. Thank you.